Space Symposium just wrapped up another record year. More than 13,000 attendees gathered in Colorado Springs to talk rockets, policy, and the future of space commerce. I'm Tom Patton. This is Terra Extra. Space Foundation has been convening the global space community for more than 40 years. Its Vice President of Strategic Communications and Outreach, Rich Cooper, says the industry still has a public perception problem. Most people don't connect their daily lives to what's happening above them. But Cooper says the connection is hiding in plain sight.
Think of the weather report that you're getting. I mean, I think the most personal aspect of space that people have today, aside from walking around with their phone, is when they order a package from Amazon. Okay, you can track that package from beginning to end. And how are you doing that? You're doing it through GPS, you're doing it through satellites, you're doing it through a secure network, all of those things. Take that away, and you have no idea when your package is showing up. And that could be something that you need for a weekend project or your kid's science project, your science project the next day that you're trying to find. That is a space relational aspect that I don't think people appreciate. And again, we all have to be better storytellers about the impact that space provides and the benefits it offers to everybody.
One of the big conversations at this year's symposium was the future of the Artemis program and whether a new era of reusability changes how we get back to the moon. Cooper says commercial competition is already reshaping the architecture.
I have no doubt that reusability is going to be a huge portion for what is going to happen with Artemis. We know what the vehicles are going to be, with the exception of the moon lander, how we're going to do Artemis 3 and 4. But that doesn't mean that with advents of different technologies and different systems, that subsequent systems aren't going to be employed here. I think, as we've seen certainly through the Apollo program, and we'll see during Artemis, it is not going to be a one-size-fits-all solution, particularly when you have commercial industry that can provide so many different tools and technologies and concepts that weren't there before, it's exciting to see, when the administrator was talking about at Symposium, where when Artemis 3 goes up, it may be, test docking with 2 different moon landers. Okay. All right. That's some competition. Let's see. Is that going to be Starship, or is that going to be Blue? We don't know, but we're putting 2 companies that are putting their best and brightest on these problems to be able to execute to see who can go to the moon next.
Another topic that grabbed a lot of attention at Space Symposium, Golden Dome, the administration's ambitious space-based missile defense initiative with roots going back to Reagan's Strategic Defense Initiative. Cooper says the conversation this year was notably direct.
The talk on that, I think, the talk picked up on it because you were having Space Force leaders as well as other allied partners talking about the threat environment that exists out there and the challenges to infrastructures and architectures and operations. They were as candid as they could be in public sessions, talking about what those particular things are and what they're looking to do to mitigate those risks. That type of conversation, being, I would say, more forward-leaning, has been very healthy for this community to understand certainly roles and consequences, but also defining what are the opportunities that industry and others can bring to the table to mitigate those threats, to address those types of challenges. That, I think, is something you're going to see more and more of. There's a very aggressive timeline that the administration has put forward on Golden Dome as to, first deployments. We saw this past week. They've started to award some of the contracts as to different vehicles that might be able to use to be part of a system like that. Because leadership has talked so overtly about these threats and they're putting forward a very aggressive timeline that they have to meet, you're going to have more discussion about this.
The Journal of Space Commerce provided extensive coverage of the topics discussed at Space Symposium, including Artemis, Golden Dome, the Commercial Low Earth Orbit Destinations Program, nuclear power for space, and more for our paid subscribers. If you're not already a subscriber, now's a great time to join us at the Journal of Space Commerce. And this programming note, Rich Cooper is my guest on the next edition of the Journal of Space Commerce podcast, set for next Thursday. I'm Tom Patton. That's your Xterra Extra.